Welcome to this introductory video to overview 5 key value propositions of Panoptica, the Cisco Cloud Application Security solution. The first value proposition I'd like to highlight is the comprehensiveness of our security coverage. From covering every cloud provider as well as on-prem or hybrid environment to virtually every type of asset, from CI/CD pipelines to containers to images to workloads to serverless functions to virtual machines to application programming interfaces to IAC repositories, so on and so forth. We cover it all. However, this presents the next challenge to an operator. Where do I start? If I have so many things and so much complexity in my environment, where do I even begin? This brings us to our second value proposition, our efficient and effective prioritization funnel to dynamically prioritize the key issues. So for instance, in this environment, as with most cloud native environments, I have a tremendous amount of complexity, and with these complexities, I have a lot of vulnerabilities. Here I have 3,552 distinct vulnerabilities. That's overwhelming to me as an operator. I don't even know where to start when I have that many things to consider. However, everything within Panoptica is stored in a graph database that highlights not just assets, but their relationships to each other. This makes querying, analyzing, correlating, contextually correlating, all of this very fast and very efficient to do. And then, by being able to perform such correlation, we can boil down what are the biggest threats to our environment and zero in and focus on that with laser-like precision. So for instance, from my 3,500 vulnerabilities, I'm boiled down to 3 critical ones. Now, let's double click on this to get more detail, which brings us to our third value proposition, Panoptica's attack path analysis. Thinking like an attacker, recognizing it's not just about looking at one issue in isolation and autonomously to something else, but rather thinking like the attacker in that they're going to try and open the door. And once that door's open, they want to explore what's inside and then maybe escalate their privileges and take control or breach data or whatever the case may be. And that's what we have presented here. We have a combination of vulnerabilities. For instance, we have a cloud risk. We have a vulnerable CVE, a common vulnerability exposure that's actually publicly exposed in this environment, and I have the details on that. I can see that I have this vulnerability with an unsecured metadata service as well as a CVE vulnerability associated with that specific image. And because it's directly publicly exposed, anybody can access that and start manipulating and probing it and maybe compromising it. But in addition to this, I also have the cloud risk of a risky administrative role that's associated with that specific asset that could easily be leveraged for privilege escalation, and they could completely take control of my environment. Okay, well, knowing about the risks, even these contextually correlated attack paths, that's one thing, but now that leads me to my next challenge. What am I going to do about it? So this brings us to our fourth value proposition of Panoptica, dynamic remediation. So not only can I explain what are the steps that are needed to remediate this specific issue in my specific environment, but I provide all the command line interface that is needed and tailored to my environment to do just that. And I can download these in my syntax of choice. And not only that, but I can integrate it with my existing workflows, creating the appropriate tickets for tracking and assignment, etc., with all the context, all the CLI, everything I need to fix this problem. Great. But one more benefit I'm going to squeeze in the last few seconds I have, and that's root cause analysis. This risky IAM role, well, that might affect more than one attack path. It might be the enabler for multiple attack paths. And so if I take a look at my root cause analysis, I can see that that's exactly the case. If I double click on that specific issue, I see that that's actually the root cause enabler of 9 separate attack paths in my environment. Well, by then addressing this specific issue, I've hardened my entire environment against 9 distinct types of attacks that really maximizes the ROI of my efforts to secure my infrastructure. So there you have it, 5 key value propositions in about 5 minutes. We talked about Panoptica's comprehensiveness of coverage, its issue prioritization funnel, its attack path analysis capabilities coupled with dynamic remediation, and finally root cause analysis to maximize my ROI in hardening my cloud native infrastructure. So there you have it, an introduction to Panoptica in 5 minutes.